back to the second episode of Monster Trivia for the second World Finals, where we will go into the history and fun facts of some of the trucks and a driver from World Finals 2001. I'll be telling you all you'd want to know about wrenchhead.com, Ragin Steel, and Gary Porter. Timestamps are below if you want to skip to one of them. And without further ado, enjoy. We'll start with one of my favorite trucks from World Finals 2000-2001, wrenchhead.com. To start, the only kind of special design this truck ran was in the form of lug nut shaped wheel covers, which were only ran in the 2000 season and done away with after Joe Panuso took the wheel. The truck would debut in January 2000 at St. Louis under Lyle Hancock, where he'd pick up a freestyle win right off the bat. However, the truck's televised debut would not come until the second event at Anaheim that season, where driver Mike Wales would have to sub for Hancock because Hancock had to sub for Dennis Anderson due to his mild injury, so Hancock drove Gravedigger 7. Speaking of other World Finals drivers driving Gravedigger, the top three spots from World Finals 2000, Dennis Anderson, Lyle Hancock, and Tom Mintz, all three of them drove Gravedigger at one point. Yes, even Tom Mintz. Look it up. For the rest of the season, Hancock would not need another substitute. During that time, he would be more than good enough to get invited to World Finals 1. In racing, he would be involved in a minor incident where he'd not be able to stop before hitting the wall protection at the end of the course, only damaging the hood, which they'd remove 2 rounds later. As for his performance in racing, he'd make it all the way to the semifinals, only to be beaten by Tom Mintz and Goldberg. In freestyle, he'd have a great run, where he'd attempt a reverse donut, but not do very well, but do amazingly at what I consider to be my favorite reverse move in World Finals history, where he'd go on the center ramp from the steep side in reverse, and attempt a reverse backflip. He may not succeed at the 360 rotation, but the iconic reverse sky wheelie was good enough and earned him a score of 39, which was his second highest score of that year and the second highest score in Amsterdam World Finals history. That would be the first attempt at an end-over-end 360-degree rotation of any kind, whether it be in reverse or forward. Hancock ran this truck at many events throughout that season until the final event of the year in Minneapolis. After this, Lyle would join the soon-to-debut Blue Thunder team. In 2001, this team would receive massive changes, the first coming in the form of the rookie driver, Joe Panuso, who would be put in charge of driving the truck for that season. The second change was an expansion of the team to a second truck, which would be wrenchhead.com 2 on Scott Hartsock's new Gunslinger 4 chassis, and will be driven by Harold Reynolds. Due to her relative inexperience, Panuso was placed on tour with many of the newer trucks and smaller teams, whereas Reynolds would tour at many televised events with Gunslinger. However, guess which one will be talented enough to make it to World Finals 2? The rookies. Despite the inexperience, Panuso would win a freestyle event in Pontiac and earn this invitation. In racing, she would get 4th to last in qualifying, being the first of 4 to get under 20 seconds, as well as losing the first round to none other than Lyle Hancock himself in his new truck, Blue Thunder. In freestyle, she would do many times better. On 4th, she would not only be the first to hit the trailer stack, she would also get a score of 36, earning her 2nd place overall in the field, only behind Tom Mintz and Goldberg. This would be the highest score not only of any female, but of any rookie in World Finals history. Not only did she tie for 2nd, she ties for the highest female score with only one person. If that crash at the end of the run looks hard, it's because it is. This wreck was so hard that it retired the truck from competition And the truck is now displayed as many different trucks, including an El Toro logo display in Indonesia in 2018, as well as the current Megalodon display for Monster Jam Thunder Alley. As for wrenchhead.com itself, by the end of 2001 it did not renew its sponsorship, and the team was retired. While the first Wrenchhead truck was basically totaled anyway, the second was converted into none other than the next truck on our list, Ragin Steel. This is certainly my favorite truck I've gone over so far in both trivia videos. Not just because it has had a theme song from Slipknot and Metallica, but also because in 2004 it has a beautiful paint scheme. But enough of my opinion, let's get into the facts. The truck debuted in 2001, driven by Gary Porter and Gary Wiggins, as a touring partner for Porter's Gravedigger 12, with Wiggins as a primary driver. It apparently ran as Blue Steel at its first performance in Birmingham. During the season, the truck was dubbed its nickname, the Rolling Billboard, by the employees, because the body was replaced multiple times by one representing a local sponsor for certain events. Starting with Orlando Rage in Orlando, then 98 Rock in Tampa, Power Forward in Salt Lake City during late August, and Gator the Case in an unknown location, where you can see images of the truck going past vertical and crashing. Its first televised event was in Jacksonville on TNN, driven by Gary Porter. Porter was good enough to make it to the World Finals. However, he didn't come with Ragin Steel, so it was originally meant to be a non-competing pit party truck. However, it, along with Little Tiger, WCW Night Machine, and 3 spare Gravediggers, was there to be used as a backup truck if any failed to make it to freestyle after racing. Despite Brian Barthel and Lyle Hancock both needing another truck, Brian didn't use Little Tiger, probably because he was apparently not very approving of freestyle, and Lyle didn't take Nitro Machine for unknown reasons, even though he could have done great in freestyle. So the only backup used was Ragin Steel, when Pablo Huffaker's racing crash kept him from using Blacksmith. The 2007 World Freestyle Champion would drive the truck to earn a score of 27. A run made famous by Pablo Huffaker driving it onto the Sting truck who'd gone directly before him to end his run. And I certainly remember that. For the summer of that year, rookie Brandon Harrington would get behind the wheel. It also ran with an unknown driver in Springfield, Illinois, which Pablo Huffaker happened to be at driving Gravedigger. But this is thought to also be Harrington. Brandon's last recorded event would take place in Miami. Then, in late August, the truck would make its third Rolling Billboard appearance in Salt Lake City, under previous NWO spokesman Chad Fortune, to announce Paul Malone's new Power Forward truck. Fortune would drive the truck at its final known event in the fall of 2001 at Richmond. In the closing weeks of 2001, Steve Reynolds ran the Ragin Steel body on the aforementioned wrenchhead.com 2 chassis under the ownership of the late Scott Hartsock. Reynolds would drive the truck until 2003, when he'd earn his breakthrough stadium racing victory in the Atlanta, Georgia Dome early in the season. After Steve, Joe Peterson would drive the truck in Columbia and throughout the summer stretch of that year, including Ragin Steel's first Speed Channel appearance in West Lebanon. In 2004, Scott's team would run an Obsession body, sending the Ragin Steel identity to the team of the reigning racing champion, Brian Barkley, to be driven by Chad Tingler for his first full-time season, following Gary Porter and Pablo Huffaker at the World Finals as the third Gravedigger driver to drive the identity. For this season, Barthel would debut a gorgeous, darker, more metallic scheme. Ragin Steel's last performance would be at the Metrodome in Minneapolis on December 4th, under Troy Dubose, then was replaced by Total Chaos in 2005. In 2022, Race Ace driver Eric Steinberg bought the truck's name. This brings us to the last part of this episode with Carolina Crusher driver Gary Porter. This is certainly the most iconic character I've gone over so far, driver or truck. All the way back in 1985, Gary would build his first ever Carolina Crusher truck and debuted at an event of that summer. At first, he would mainly do displays and small events with the truck until 1988, when he would race impressively on the first worldwide TNT Tough Tracks tour. Porter stayed on the TNT circuit until 1991, when he'd moved to the Penda series, where he won his sole world championship that year. He would also compete amongst the USHRA trucks and drivers throughout the 90s, including the Monster Wars series. In 1999, Gary would sell Carolina Crusher to Paul Schaefer, despite continuing to drive it until the end of 2000. That year, he filled in to drive Randy Brown's Pure Adrenaline at his first Pro MT event, due to Brown not having a Class A license yet. The following year, Monster Jam would hire him to join fellow Carolinian, an occasional opponent from the 80s and 90s, Dennis Anderson and Graves. From 2001 to 2010, he competed in mainly small arenas as the official driver for Gravedigger 12. Then 25 from 2011 to November 2014. In 2001, along with Gravedigger 12, he would drive Ragin Steel and Spider-Man as a fill-in. He took Spider-Man to the World Finals too, and displayed Ragin Steel during the pit party, but he probably didn't expect it to compete with him. In racing, he would earn the 5th highest qualifying time, but only make it to round 2 to be beaten by Dan Evans in Destroyer. His freestyle performance would get him the same position as when he came out, 7th, with a 31 as would his other truck, Ragin Steel, coming in 10th. This would be his only World Finals appearance as a competing driver, since the 1999 one doesn't really count. 7 years later, he'd drive Monster Mud in 2008 at least once, and drive Spitfire for the encore of that year's World Finals. To start the 2010s, Gary would compete in the Freestyle Mania Arena Tour in 2010 and 11, as well as drive Spider-Man again in Philadelphia in 2010. His moment of glory would come in 2013 when he'd be inducted into the International Monster Truck Hall of Fame. A year later in December, for Carolina Crusher's 30th anniversary, Monster Jam would have Gary Porter back behind the wheel of the name from Paul Schaefer. During June of 2016, he returned to stadium competition on the Path of Destruction, where he'd even wreck in Foxborough. Next year, he'd compete in a Monster Jam Arena Tour with Carolina Crusher, which I would actually get to see a part of when they came to my hometown Milky Seas Paycom Center, which was Chesapeake Arena at that time. He would dominate this whole tour, winning it all at the end. That April, he would announce that his retirement would come at the end of July after his last few Speedway shows. He did retire on July 30th after a championship event in Hagerstown Speedway, leaving with 32 years of driving in the sport. Now he operates heavy machinery in Anson County, North Carolina. In 2021, he was inducted into the Monster Jam Hall of Fame, along with Mike Wales. In 2022, he drove a throwback Carolina Crusher based on his famous 1990 TNT Motorsports unfinished business truck. To end this segment, his nickname was Mr. Consistent for his clean and skillful driving style. That will conclude the second episode of Monster Trivia for World Finals 2001, which had a higher score average than any other World Finals if you don't count the trucks that didn't compete. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button so I know. By the way, out of all the people who view my videos, 97% of them are not subscribed. So if you're one of those viewers and you like the content that I've been posting, be sure to hit subscribe so you can get even more of it. Next week I'll have a compilation video of monster trucks losing wheels at the World Finals. So if you don't want to miss that, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. Without further ado, be great, stay awesome, drive.